Good afternoon, everyone. This is Jared Rand, and welcome to the Global Guided meditation call for Monday, November 7th, 2022. Well, that's 3 p.m. Eastern. We will be having a time for change call this Wednesday night, if all goes well. We'll start off today's meditation for contemplation about a story about 2 women and a monk. There was an old woman in China who had supported a monk for over 20 years. She had built a hut for him, and she fed him while he was meditating. One day she decided to find out just what progress he had made in all this time. She obtained the help of a girl rich in desire and said to her, "Go and embrace him and then ask him suddenly, 'What now?'" The girl called upon the monk and immediately started caressing him and asking him what he was going to do about it. "An old tree grows on a rock in winter," replied the monk, somewhat poetically. "Nowhere is there anyone." The girl returned and released what he had said. "To think I fed that fellow for 20 years, exclaimed the old woman in anger. "He showed no consideration for your need, no disposition to explain your condition. He need not have responded to passion, but at least he should have experienced some compassion." She at once went to the hut of the monk and burned it down. An ancient proverb says, "Sow a thought, reap an act. Sow an act, reap a habit. Sow a habit, reap a character. Sow a character, reap a destiny." Sow nothing and reap meditation or love. Sowing nothing, that's what meditation is all about, and its natural consequence in love. If at the end of the journey of meditation, love has not flowered, then the whole journey has been futile. Something went wrong somewhere. You started, but you never reached. Love is the test. For the path of meditation, love is the test. There are 2 sides of one coin, 2 aspects of the same energy. When one is there, the other had to be there. If the other is not there, then the first is also not there. Meditation is not concentration. A man of concentration may not reach to love. In fact, he will not. A man of concentration may become more violent because concentration is a training to remain tense. Concentration is an effort to narrow down the mind. It is deep violence with your consciousness. And when you are violent with your own consciousness, you cannot be nonviolent with others. Whatsoever you are with yourself, you are going to be with others. Whatsoever you are with yourself, you are going to be with others. Let this be a fundamental rule of life. One of the most fundamental whatsoever you are toward yourself, you will be toward others. If you love yourself, you will love others. If you are flowing within your being, you will be flowing in relationships. Also, if you are frozen inside, you will be frozen outside also. The inner tends to become the outer. The inner goes on manifesting itself in the outer. Concentration is not meditation, as many people believe it is. Concentration is the method of science. It is scientific methodology. A man of science needs the deep discipline of concentration, but a man of science is not expected to be compassionate. There is no need. In fact, a man of science becomes more and more violent with nature. All scientific progress is based on violence towards nature. It is destructive because, in the first place, the scientific man is destructive to his own expanding consciousness. Rather than expanding his consciousness, he narrows it down, makes it exclusive, one-pointed. It is a coercion, violence. So remember, meditation is not concentration, but neither is meditation contemplation. It is not thinking. Maybe you are thinking about God. Even then, it is thinking. If there is about, there is thinking. You may be thinking about money. You may be thinking about God. It basically makes no difference. Thinking continues. Only objects change. So if you are thinking about the world or about sex, nobody will call it contemplation. If you are thinking about God, virtue, if you are thinking about Jesus, Krishna, Buddha, then people will call it contemplation. But Zen is very strict about it. It is not meditation. It is still thinking. You are still concerned with the other. In contemplation, the other is there, although, of course, not so exclusively as it is in concentration. Contemplation has more fluidity than concentration. In concentration, the mind is one-pointed. In contemplation, the mind is oriented toward one subject, not toward one point. You can go on thinking about it. You can go on changing and flowing with the subject, but still, on the whole, the subject remains the same. Then what is meditation? Meditation is just being delighted in your own presence. Meditation is a delight in your own being. It is very simple. A totally relaxed state of consciousness where you are not doing anything. The moment doing enters, you become tense. Anxiety enters immediately. How to do, what to do, how to succeed, how not to fail. You have already moved into the future. If you are contemplating, when can you contemplate? How can you contemplate the unknown? How can you contemplate the unknowable? You can contemplate only the known. You can chew it again and again and again, but it is the known. If you know something about Jesus, you can think again and again and again. If you know something about Krishna, you can think again and again and again. You can go on modifying, changing, decorating, but it is not going to lead you toward the unknown. And God is the unknown. Meditation is just to be, not doing anything, no action, no thought, no emotion. You just are. And it is a sheer delight. From where does this delight come when you are not doing anything? It comes from nowhere, or it comes from everywhere. It is uncaused, because the existence is made of the stuff called joy. It needs no cause, no reason. If you are happy, you have a reason to be unhappy. If you are happy, you are simply happy. There is no reason for it. Your mind tries to find a reason because it cannot believe in the uncaused because it cannot control the uncaused. With the uncaused, the mind simply becomes impotent. So the mind goes on finding some reason or other. But I would like to tell you that whenever you are happy for no reason at all. Whenever you are unhappy, you have some reason to be unhappy. Because happiness is just the stuff you are made of. It is your very being. It is your innermost core. Joy is your innermost core. Look at the trees. Look at the birds. Look at the clouds. Look at the stars. And if you have eyes, you will be able to see that the whole of existence is joyful. Everything is simply happy. Trees are happy for no reason. They're not going to become prime ministers or presidents, and they are not going to become rich, and they will never have any bank balance. Look at the flowers for no reason. It is simply unbelievable how happy flowers are. The whole existence is made of the stuff called joy. Hindus call it Sat Chit Anand, Ananda joy. That's why no reason, no cause is needed. If you can just be with yourself, not doing anything, just enjoying yourself, just being with yourself, just being happy that you are just being happy, that you are breathing, just being happy that you are listening to the birds for no reason, then you are in meditation. Meditation is being here, now. And when one is happy for no reason, that happiness cannot be contained within you. It goes on spreading to others. It becomes a sharing. You cannot hold it. It is so much. It is so infinite. You cannot hold it in your hands. You have to allow it to spread. This is what compassion is. Meditation is being with yourself, and compassion is overflowing with that being. It is the same energy that was moving into passion that becomes compassion. It is the same energy that was narrowed down into the body or into the mind. It is the same energy that was leaking from small holes. What is sex? Just a leakage of energy from a small hole in the body. Hindus call this exactly holes. When you are flowing, overflowing, when you are not moving through the holes, all walls disappear. You have become the whole. Now you spread. You cannot do anything about it. It is not that you have to be compassionate. No. In the state of meditation, you are compassion. Compassion is as warm as passion. Hence, the word compassion. It is very passionate, but the passion is unaddressed. And the passion is not in search of any gratification. The whole process has become just the reverse. First, you were seeking some happiness somewhere. Now you have found it, and you are expressing it. Passion is a search for happiness. Compassion is an expression of happiness. But it is passionate. It is warm. And you have to understand it because it has a paradox in it. The greater a thing, the more paradoxical it is. And this meditation and compassion is one of the highest peaks, the uttermost peak. So there is bound to be a paradox. The paradox is that a man of meditation is very cool. Not cold, cool, yet warm, not hot. Passion is hot. It is almost feverish. It has a temperature. Compassion is cool, yet warm. Welcoming, receptive, happy to share, ready to share, waiting to share. If a person of meditation becomes cold, he has missed. Then he is just a man of repression. If you repress your passion, you will become cold. That's how the whole humanity has become cold. Passion has been repressed in everyone. From the very childhood, your passion has been crippled and repressed. Whenever you started becoming passionate, there was somebody, your mother, your father, your teacher, the police, there was somebody who immediately became suspicious of you. Your passion was curbed, repressed. Don't do it. Immediately, you shrank within yourself. And by, you learned that to survive, it is better to listen to people who are around you. It is safer. So what to do? What is a child supposed to do when he feels passionate, when he feels full of energy, and he wants to jump and run, dance, and his father is reading the newspaper? It is rubbish, but he is reading his newspaper, and he is a very important man. He's the master of the house. What to do? The child is doing something really great. In him, it is God who is ready to dance. But the father is reading him, reading his newspaper. So there has to be silence. He cannot dance. He cannot run. He cannot scream. He will repress his energy. He will try to be cold, collected, controlled. Control has become such a supreme value, and it is of no value at all. A controlled person is a dead person. A controlled person is not necessarily a disciplined person. Discipline is totally different. Discipline comes out of awareness. Control comes out of fear. People who are around you are more powerful than you. They can punish you. They can destroy you. They have all the power to control, to corrupt, to repress. The child has to become diplomatic. When sex energy arises, the child is in difficulty. The society is against it. The society says it has to be channeled, and it is flowing all over the child. It has to be cut. In the schools, what are we doing? In fact, the schools are not so much instruments for impairing knowledge as instruments of control. For 6, 7 hours a day, a child is sitting there. This is to curb his dancing, to curb his singing, to curb his joy. This is to control him. Sitting for 6 to 7 hours every day in an almost prison-like atmosphere, by and by the energy deadens. The child becomes repressed and frozen. Now there is no streaming. The energy does not come. He lives at the minimum. That's what we call control. He never goes to the maximum. Psychologists have been searching, and they have come to recognize a great factor in human misfortune. That is that ordinarily people live only 10%. They live 10%. They breathe 10%. They love 10%. They enjoy 10%. 90% of their lives are simply not allowed. This is sheer waste. One should live at the 100% capacity. Only then is flowering possible. So meditation is not control. It is not repression. If somehow you have got the wrong idea and you are repressing yourself, then you will become very controlled, but then you will be cold. Then you will become more and more indifferent, not detached, indifferent, non-caring, unloving. You will almost commit suicide. You will be alive at the minimum. You can be called just so alive. You will not be burning. You will not be burning from both ends. Your flame will be very dim. Much smoke will be there, but almost no light. You begin to realize that we know so little about who and what we are. We know so little. Yet, we believe that we're living 100%. And truthfully, across the board, just about all of us are living at 10% on this planet. And we know that it comes from, as children, all the way through life. Repress, control. Can't do this, can't do that. So we're literally repressing ourselves on an ongoing basis. And it doesn't stop as we grow older. One may think that we stop. It stops as these bodies grow old. And they don't. It doesn't stop. So understanding that meditation is not control. It is not repression. If somehow you have got the wrong idea and you are repressing yourself, then you will become very controlled. But then you will be cold. Then you will become more and more and more indifferent. Not detached, but indifferent. Non-caring. You'll almost commit suicide in a way. You'll be alive at the minimum, the bare minimum. You can be called just so alive. You will not be burning from both ends. Your flame will be very dim. Much smoke will be there, but almost no light. It happens to people who are on the path of meditation. Catholics, Buddhists, Jainists, that they become cold. Because to control comes easily. Awareness is very arduous. Control is very easy because control needs only a cultivation of habits. You cultivate habits, then those habits possess you, and you need not worry. Then you go on with your habits. They become mechanical. And you live a robot life in many ways. You may look like a Buddha, but you will not be. You will be just a dead stone statue. If compassion has not arisen in you, then apathy will arise. Apathy means absence of passion. Compassion means transformation of passion. Go and watch Catholics, monks, Jaina monks, Buddhist monks, and you will see very apathetic figures, dull, stupid, non-radiant, closed, afraid, continuously anxious. Controlled persons are always nervous because deep down, turmoil is still hidden. If you are uncontrolled, flowing, alive, then you are not envious. There is no question of being nervous. Whatsoever happens, happens. You have no expectations for the future. You are not performing. Then why should you be nervous? If you go to Catholic, Jainist, Buddhist, monks, etc., you will feel them very nervous, and you'll find them very nervous. Maybe not so nervous in their monastery, but if you bring them out to the world, you will find them very, very, very nervous, because on each step there is temptation. A man of meditation comes to a point where there is no temptation left. Try to understand, temptation never comes from without. It is the repressed desire, repressed energy, repressed anger, repressed sex, repressed greed that creates temptation. Temptation comes from within you. It has nothing to do with the without. It is not that a devil comes and tempts you. It is your own repressed mind that becomes devilish and wants to take revenge. To control that mind, one has to remain so cold and frozen that no life energy is allowed to move into your limbs, into your body. If energy is allowed to move, those repressions will surface. That's why people have learned how to be cold, how to touch others and yet not touch them, how to see people and yet not see them. People live with cliches. Hello, how are you? Nobody means anything by it. These words are just to avoid the real encounter of two persons. People don't look into each other's eyes. They don't hold hands. They don't try to feel each other's energy. They don't allow each other to pour. Very afraid, somehow just managing, cold and dead, in a straitjacket. A man of meditation has learned how to be full of energy at the maximum optimum. He lives at the peak. He makes his abode at the peak. Certainly, he has a warmth, but it is not feverish. It only shows life. He is not hot. He is cool, because he is not carried away by desires. He is so happy that he is no longer seeking any happiness. He is so at ease. He is so at home. He is not going anywhere, but is not running and chasing. He is very cool. In Latin, there is a dictum. Agere sic sequitur esse. To do follows to be. Action follows being. It is tremendously beautiful. Don't try to change your action. Try to find out your being, and action will follow. The action is secondary. Being is primary. Action is something that you do. Being is something that you are. Action comes out of you, but action is just a fragment. Even if all of your actions are collected together, they will not be equal to your being, because all actions collected together will be your past. What about your future? Your being contains your past, your future, your present. Your being contains your eternity. Your actions, even if all collected, will just be of the past. Past is limited. Future is unlimited. That which has happened is limited. It can be defined. It has already happened. That which has not happened is unlimited, undefinable. Your being contains eternity. Your actions contain only your past. So it is possible that a man who has been a sinner, in other words, missing the target all the time, up to this moment, can become a saint the next. Never judge a man by his actions. Judge a man, if you even care to judge, by his being. Witness his being. Watch the being. Sinners have become saints, and saints have fallen and become sinners. Each saint has a past, and each sinner has a future. Never judge a man by his actions. But there is no other way, because you have not known even your own being. How can you see the being of others? Once you know your own being, you will learn the language. You will know the clue of how to look into another's being. You can see into others only to the extent that you can see into yourself. If you've been yourself through and through, you become capable of seeing into others through and through. So a few things. If by your meditations you are becoming cold, be aware. If your meditation is making you more warm, more loving, more flowing, good. You are on the right path. If you are becoming less loving, if your compassion is disappearing and apathy is setting inside you, then the sooner you change your direction, the better. Otherwise, you will become a wall. Don't become a wall. Remain alive, throbbing, streaming, flowing, melting. And of course, there are problems. Why have people become walls? Because walls can be defined. They give you a boundary, a definite shape and form. What Hindus call nam roop, name and form. If you're melting and flowing, you don't have boundaries. You don't know where you are and where you end and where the other begins. You go on being. Together with people so much, you go on being together with people so much that all the boundaries, by and by, become dreamlike. And one day, they disappear. That is how reality is. Reality is unbounded. Where do you think you stop? At your skin? Ordinarily, we think, of course, we are inside our skins, and the skin is our wall, the boundary. But your skin could not be alive if the air was not surrounding it. If your skin is not constantly breathing, the oxygen that is being supplied to the surroundings, your skin cannot be alive. Take away the atmosphere, and you will die immediately. Even if your skin has not been scratched, you will die. So they cannot be your boundary. That cannot be your boundary. There are 200 miles of atmosphere all around the earth. Is that your boundary? That also cannot be your boundary. This oxygen and this atmosphere and the warmth and the life cannot exist without the sun. If the sun ceases to exist or drops dead, one day it is going to happen. Scientists say that someday the sun will cool down and drop dead. Then suddenly, this atmosphere will not be alive. Immediately, you will be dead. So is the sun your boundary? But now physicists say this sun is connected to some central source of energy that we have not yet been able to find, but is suspected, because nothing is unrelated. So where do we decide where our boundary is? An apple on the tree is not you. Then you eat it. It becomes you. So it is just waiting to become you. It is your potentiality. It is your future you. Then you have defecated, and you have dropped much rubbish out of the body. Just a moment before, it was you. So where do you decide? Am I breathing the breath inside me? Is me? But just a moment before, it may have been your breath. It must have been because we are breathing in a common atmosphere. We are all breathing into each other. We are members of each other. We are breathing in me. You are breathing in me. I am breathing in you. And it is not only so with breathing, it is exactly so with life. Have you watched what with certain people? You feel very alive. They come just bubbling with energy. And something happens in you, a response. And you also bubbling. And then there are people, just their face, and one feels one will flop down. You ever experienced that? Just their presence is enough poison. They must be pouring something into you that is poisonous. And when you come around a person and you become radiant and happy, and suddenly something starts throbbing in your heart, and your heart beats faster, this man must have poured something into you. All of us are pouring into each other. That's why in the East, satsang has become very, very important. To be with a person who has known just to be in his presence is enough, because he is constantly pouring his being into you. You may know, or you may not know. You may recognize it today, or you may not recognize it today. But someday or other, the seeds will come to flower. We are pouring into each other. We are not separate islands. A cold person becomes like an island. And it is a misfortune. It is a great misfortune because you could have become a vast continent and you decided to become an island. You decided to remain poor when you could have become as rich as you wanted to be. Don't be a wall and never try to repress. Otherwise, you will become a wall. Repressed people have masks, faces. They are pretending to be somebody else. A repressed person is carrying the same world as you are. Just an opportunity is needed, a provocation. And immediately, the real will come out. That's why monks disappear from the world, because there are too many provocations. There are too many temptations. It is difficult for them to remain contained, to hold on. So they go to the Himalayas or to the caves. They retire from the world so that even if ideas, temptations, desires arise, there is no way to fulfill them. But this is not a way of transformation. The people who become cold are the people who went very hot. The people who take vows of remaining celibate are the people who are extremely sexual. The mind turns from one extreme to another very easily. It is my observation that many people who are too obsessed with food, one day or another become obsessed with fasting. It has to happen because you cannot stay in one extreme long. You are doing too much of it. Soon, you will get fed up with it, tired of it. Then there is no other way. You have to remove and move to the other extreme. The people who have become monks are very worldly people. They mark their market was too much. They had moved too much in the market. Then the pendulum moved to the other extreme. Greedy people renounce the world. This renunciation is not of understanding, it is just greed upside down. First they were holding. Now suddenly they see the pointlessness of it, the futility of it. They start throwing it. First they were afraid to lose a single penny. Now they're afraid to keep a single penny. But the fear continues. First they were too greedy about this world. Now they are too greedy about the other world. But the greed is there. These people one day or other are bound to join a monastery. Then they become great celibates, great renouncers. But it does not change their nature. Except for awareness, nothing changes a person, nothing at all. So don't try to pretend. That which has not happened is not happened. Understand it. Don't try to pretend, and don't try to make others believe that it has happened, because nobody is going to lose in this deception except you. People who try to control themselves have chosen a very foolish way. Control will not happen, but they will become cold. That is the only way a man can control himself. to become frozen so that that energy does not rise. People who take vows of celibacy will not eat much. In fact, they will starve their body. If more energy is created in the body, then there will be more sex energy. And then they don't know what to do with it. So Buddhist monks eat only once a day, and then not enough. They eat only enough that bodily needs are fulfilled, very minimum needs, so no energy is left. This type of celibacy is not celibacy. When you are flowing with energy, and the energy starts transforming itself into love, then a celibacy, a brahmacharya, which is beautiful, happens. The sweet old lady came into the store, bought a package of mothballs. The next day, she was back for another 5 packets. Another day passed, and she came in for a dozen more. "You must have a heck of a lot of moths," said the salesman. "Yes," replied the old dear, "and I have been throwing these things at them for 3 days now, and I've only managed to hit one. Through control, you will not even be able to hit one. That is not the way. You are fighting with leaves, branches, cutting them here and there. That is not the way to destroy the tree of desire. The way is to cut the roots. And roots can be cut only when you have reached to the roots of desire. On the surface, there are only branches, jealousy, anger, envy, hatred, lust. They are just on the surface. The deeper you move, the more you will understand. They are all coming out of one root, and that root is unawareness. Meditation means awareness. It cuts the very root. Then the whole tree disappears on its own accord. Then passion becomes compassion. There was a very great Zen master who had become old and almost blind at the age of 96, no longer able to reach or work about the monastery. The old man then decided it was time to die because he was of no use to anybody. He could not be of any help. So he stopped eating. When asked by his monks why he refused his food, he replied he had outlived his usefulness and was only a bother to everybody. They told him, if you die now, it was January, when it is so cold, everybody will be uncomfortable at your funeral, and you will be an even greater nuisance. So please eat. This can happen only in a Zen monastery because disciples love the master so deeply, their respect is so deep that there is no need for any formality. You see what they were saying. They were saying, if you die now, and it is January, see, it is so cold, everybody will be uncomfortable at the funeral, and you will be an even greater nuisance. So please eat. He thereupon resumed eating. But when it became warm again, he stopped. And not long after, he quietly toppled over and died. Such compassion. One lives then for compassion. One dies then for compassion. One is even ready to choose the right time so that nobody is bothered and one need not be a nuisance. Another Zen master who was going to die He said, "Where are my shoes? Bring them." Somebody asked, "Where are you going?" The doctors say, "You're going to die." He said, "I'm going to the cemetery." But why? He said, "I don't want to trouble anybody. Otherwise, will have to carry me on your shoulders." He walked to the cemetery and died there. Tremendous compassion. What manner of man is this? Not to give even that much trouble to anybody. And these people helped thousands and thousands and thousands were grateful to them. Thousands became full of light and love because of them. Yes, they would not like to bother anybody. If they are useful, they would like to live and help. If they are not useful, then it is time to leave and go. There was an old woman in China who had supported a monk for 20 years. She had built a hut for him, and she fed him while he was meditating. It is a miracle that has happened in the East. The West is still unable to understand it. For centuries in the East, if somebody was meditating, the society would feed them. It was enough that they were meditating. Nobody would think that they were a burden on the society. Why should we work for him or them? Just because they were meditating was enough. Because the East came to know that even if one man becomes enlightened, his energy is shared by all. If even one man comes to flower in meditation, his fragrance becomes part of the whole society. And the gain is so tremendous that the East has never said, "Don't sit there and meditate." Who is going to feed you? Who is going to clothe you? And who is going to give you shelter? Thousands and thousands and thousands. Buddha had 10,000 sannyasins moving with him. But people were happy to feed them, to shelter them, to clothe them, to look after them, because they were meditating. Now, it is very, very, very impossible in the West to think that way. Even in the East, it is becoming difficult. In China, monasteries were closed. Meditation halls were converted into hospitals or schoolrooms. Great masters disappeared. They were forced to work in the fields or in the factories. Nobody is allowed to meditate because a great understanding is lost. The whole mind is full of materialism, as if matter is all that exists. If a man in a town becomes enlightened, the whole town is benefited. It is not a waste to support him. For nothing you are going to get such tremendous treasure. For nothing you are going to get such tremendous treasure. People were happy to help. And for 20 years, that woman helped that monk who was meditating and meditating and meditating and doing nothing. He was sitting and zazen. She built a hut for him. She looked after him. She took every care. And one day, when she had become very old and was going to die, she wanted to know whether meditation had flowered or not, or whether this man had been simply sitting and sitting and sitting. 20 years is a long enough time. The woman was getting old and was going to die. So she wanted to know whether she had been serving a man of real meditation or just a hocus pocus. One day she decided to find out. The woman must have been of great understanding herself, because the examination, the test that she tried, was full of understanding. So one day she decided to find out just what progress he had made in all this time. If meditation is progressing, then the only criterion of its progress is love. The only criterion of its progress is compassion. She obtained the help of a girl rich in desire and said to her, go and embrace him and then ask him suddenly, what now? There three are the possibilities. One, if for 20 years he had not touched a beautiful woman, the first possibility was that he would be tempted. He would be a victim. He would forget all about meditation and would make love with this girl. The other possibility was that he would remain cold, controlled, and would not show any compassion toward this girl. He would simply hold himself back hard so that he could not be tempted. And the third possibility was that if meditation had come to fruition, he would be full of love, understanding, compassion. And he would try to understand this girl and would try to help her. She was just a test for these possibilities. If the first was the possibility, then all his meditation was simply a waste. If the second was this possibility, then he had fulfilled the ordinary criterion of being a monk, but he had not fulfilled the real criterion of being a man of meditation. If the second was the possibility, then it simply showed that he was a behaviorist, that he had made a habit, controlled his behavior. You must have heard the name of Pavlov, the Russian behaviorist. He said there is no consciousness in man or in animals or anywhere. The whole thing is just a mind mechanism. You can train the mind mechanism, and then it starts working in that way. It is all a question of conditioning. Mind functions as a conditioned reflex. If you put food before your dog, he immediately comes running, his tongue hanging, forward, dripping. He starts to salivate. Pavlov tried. Whenever he gave food to the dog, he would ring a bell. By and by, the bell and the food became associated. Then one day, he simply rang the bell, and the dog came running, tongue hanging out, dripping. Now, this is absurd. No dog has ever been known to react to a ringing bell in this way. The bell is not food. But now the association has conditioned the mind. Pavlov says man can be changed in the same way. Whenever sex arises in you, punish yourself. Go for a 7-day fast. Flog your body. Stand in the cold the whole night. Or beat yourself, and by the body will learn a trick. Whenever sex arises, it will repress it automatically because of the fear of the punishment. Reward and punishment. This is the way to condition the mind if you follow Pavlov. I'll join you in the meditation, and I'll return to close us out.
Take an easy and slow breath in through the nose, and an easy and slow breath out through the mouth. Remain still. Shine the light of consciousness into your unconsciousness, and you will illuminate your soul. Right now, there is a massive amount of hidden, unknown, buried material in our unconsciousness. Sometime today, in about 30 minutes, bring your awareness into your unconsciousness. How do you do this? Sit in a dark room, close your eyes, relax deeply into your belly and body. Allow any thought to arise that may be hidden beneath the surface. When they do, the instant they enter your mind, imagine you're shining a bright golden spotlight on them immediately. However, this light is so powerful it incinerates the thought, and they dissolve instantly, giving more space for you inside. During this exercise, know that you are safe here, no matter what you experience, even though you may see nothing and feel nothing. Stay present to the void. You may feel your entire body and mind have disappeared. Simply remain present and aware that consciousness is always here. Take this with you for the rest of the day and to the evening and night the following morning, and we'll return here Tuesday, November 8th, 2022, 3 p.m. Eastern, to continue our global guide.